Good afternoon. This is Miss Janelle from the Ella Johnson Library, and we are here for another Art Explorers video. Today, we are going to learn about Takashi Murakami, and we are going to make our very own smiley flower sculpture. So Takashi Murakami is a Japanese artist, and they're very well known for their pop art, bright, colorful work. In particular, their smiley face flower, which is what our piece is going to be inspired by today. Takashi Murakami makes all kinds of things: painting, sculpture, drawings, films, and even toys. So what we're going to do is we are going to make our very own dome flower sculpture with items provided to you in the kit that you picked up from the library. If you didn't get a kit from the library, no worries. The items that you use for this project are pretty much what you have around your house. So we are going to get started by making our very own glue paste. So in the kit you should have half a cup of flour, some newsprint, and a balloon. What you'll need from your house is something to put your balloon in, some hot water, and probably some tape as well. So what I did was I blew up my balloon already, and I have it in its very own little container. And we're going to be just using half of the balloon. So I have it set in here to about the shape that I want. So what we're going to make is a dome, so basically an upside down bowl. And it's going to look very close to the smiley face flower ball that he created not too long ago. So blow up your balloon, put it in there. Then you're going to take your newspaper and you're going to cut it into strips. Now it doesn't matter how big or how small, just make sure you have enough to do the thickness that you'd like for your dome. Next, we have to make our glue paste. So what you will need is 1 cup of warm or hot water and a half a cup of flour, something to mix it in. This is going to get very messy, so make sure you have some paper towels, a regular towel, maybe work on a table covered with something, because this is glue that we're making, so it will be sticky. It will be easy to wipe off, but it will be messy. So you're going to start by sprinkling your flour into the water. We're going to mix and try to get out as much of the lumps as you can. The hotter the water, the easier it will be for you to mix it. So you're going to have to take a couple of minutes and stir it real good. So it should be a little bit thicker than this, so I'm going to add just a touch more of the flour. It should be almost a pancake batter consistency. So if you have to add a little bit more flour, go ahead. And this could be any flour that you have. It doesn't have to be white flour, it could be wheat, it could be all-purpose, self-rising, as long as it's flour. So what we're basically going to be doing is making paper mache, if you've ever made paper mache before, but this is paper mache from scratch. So we've got our glue paste ready to go, and we got our balloon. So what I'm going to do, so you can kind of see what I'm doing here, you're going to take your strip of paper and you're going to dunk it into the glue. And you want it to be wet, but not sopping wet. So what I do is I usually kind of squeegee the paper off there, so it's just a little damp. And then you're just going to lay it over your balloon. And we're going to keep doing this for several layers. And what's going to happen is it's going to stick to itself, but not quite the balloon. It will come off the balloon once it's dry. And you want to have a couple layers because you want it to be nice and sturdy. So what I usually do is I start going all one direction, and then for the second layer I flip it to the opposite direction. That kind of helps with a sort of weaving pattern that creates a little bit more strength and durability in your piece. If your strips are too long, you can cut the edges off. I like to make it a little bit bigger than what I actually want the piece to look like, and then I usually trim the edges. You'll have to trim the edges because what you're going to do is make a dome that will sit on the table and kind of just rise up above it. Now it's important when you use your paste that you kind of work a little bit fast so that it doesn't dry up, because if it dries up, then it won't be easy to use, and then we'll have to make more. So that's why I usually start with hot water instead of warm water, because then it gives me a little bit more time to work on the shape that I want. So I'm going to start kind of breaking up some pieces to fill in these gaps here. And if you notice that your newspaper is a little too dry, you can add a little bit with your finger. And just make sure that you don't press too hard, because we don't want to pop our balloon. All right. So now I'm going to start going the opposite direction. The nice thing about this though is if you get your first couple layers on and it dries and you decide that it's not thick enough, what you can do is make more paste and go back over it and add more layers. Make it a little bit longer or bigger. So after we kind of get all the layers that we want, we're going to have to wait for this to dry. And then we are going to paint our very own smiley face flower of our own design. So the fun thing about Takashi Murakami's artwork is that it's very bright and it's very colorful, and it's a little bit silly and a little bit fun. So we want to create our own design that is in the spirit of that. So you can do the exact flower that he has done, or you can create your own kind of character. They could be smiling, they could be laughing, they could be grimacing, whatever facial expression you want to do. But the goal is to make it bright and colorful and fun. So as I mentioned before, they are a pop artist. So pop also means kind of bright, colorful, advertising sort of imagery. If you've taken classes at the library before, we've done projects on other pop artists like Andy Warhol. And those all use very bright, fun colors. So I'm kind of working my way around here. This is looking good. I try to do at least 3 or 4 layers just so that it's nice and sturdy. It doesn't have to be super thick, just so that it stays on whatever surface you put it on without any support is what we're trying to do. Another thing that you can do when you're making this is if you feel like it's not sticking enough, you can just add additional layers of just the glue on top of the paper to kind of create a protective coating. You can also water down Elmer's glue, like school glue, with a little bit of warm water to thin it out, and it will create a paste very similar. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of spin around, see if I missed anything. Like I said, this is a little bit messy. As you see my table, there's lots of drips everywhere. But the good thing is that this is just flour and water and it's really easy to clean up, even if it has dried. That's why it's important to make sure that you have stuff underneath where you're working and to make sure that you squeegee as much liquid off as possible when you're dunking it into the paste solution. All right, so I have my dome all done. That's what it looks like. I'm gonna let this dry for a couple hours, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over it with some white paint, and then I'm going to draw my flower face on it, and then go back again into it with probably some markers and some paint, just so that it looks a little bit more like a cartoon. With your kit, you should have some paint in there and a brush, but you can add whatever you have on hand as well. If you have markers, or if you have colored pencils or crayons or even pens, you can doodle on that as well. If you want to paint it white before you start adding color, you can definitely do that. Sometimes what I like to do is after I have the base of the newsprint down, I'll go over it with regular white paper, and it kind of creates a cool texture, and then I don't have to paint it white. So there's a couple options that you can do. You can paint it white, you can leave it as is, you could put paper over top of it. Anything that is made of paper you can use. So if you have tissue, you could use that. If you have newspaper, you could use that. If you have magazine sheets, you can use that as well. But after it's dried for a couple hours, it should be very hard to the touch, and you'll be able to pop it off the balloon and trim it to the height that you like, and then you can decorate. I hope you had fun with me today doing a Takashi Murakami sculpture, and I hope to see you at the library very soon. Have a good day.